We begin today with a discussion about the future of Niagara's economy. The region is embarking on a 10-year plan for economic development, with our guest George Spezza leading the way. George, why is now the right time for this 10-year plan?
Well, I think this is the right time, Mike, because we're just starting, looking at coming out of COVID, and we are getting near the end of our 5-year plan that the region had coming up in 2023. So it's time to really start looking at how do we recover from the pandemic? What is the Niagara region's economy going to look like over the next 10 years? And we need to start engaging in this process now as we think about, how do we grow our economy and what's important? What are the key areas and the key steps? Some of the key priorities that we want to think about moving forward.
This pandemic has really complicated matters when looking towards the future, because not only are we forced to dig out and recover from what has happened, but we also have uncertainty when we face 10 years. Anything could happen in 10 years.
That's right. And 10 years is, as a regional council has asked us to look at a 10-year long-range economic development strategy, and that's what we're doing. And we really are really keen on getting the public's input, not just our business community, but our other key stakeholders in the community, to really engage in this process. But we certainly recognize 10 years is a long time, and within that 10 years, many things can happen, and we have to be nimble and flexible enough to be able to react to economic conditions within that 10-year strategy. But the 10 years does start to build that foundation in terms of our long-range thinking for the economy of Niagara.
You've got a website, niagaracanada.com, and you're reaching out currently to business people to fill out a survey and give you feedback on what they would like to see in the next 10 years.
That's right, Mike. The Niagara.com is our website. If people can go on that and download the survey takes about 50 minutes to complete. Not a very onerous survey, a lot of open-ended questions. So it's really important for me in the region to really reach out to get the public's input and get that stakeholder engagement. It's for businesses of all kinds, small, medium, large companies in our region, but also for many of the community stakeholders and community groups. So the youth community, the women's community as well, and First Nations community. We're really trying to really seek a lot of public input into this process. So all of that information is on the Niagara Canada website, 15-minute survey, and we're also going to be having 4 workshops as well that will be in person or virtual workshops to gain feedback outside of the survey.
What are the topics of those workshops?
The workshops will be essentially focusing on priorities, key themes, and really wanting to seek that public input as to what is important, what are some of the barriers that we're seeing now, what are some of the areas of the economy we can improve upon, and one of those areas of growth that we can see. We're looking for positive and negative. There are things that we can perhaps do better, and we want to know what are some of those weaknesses. We want to hear from the community on those areas as well too. Without really fully understanding the weaknesses, it's hard to improve on some of the strengths. So getting to know where we are today, having an understanding of the weaknesses, but also really getting some of that visioning around what are the key priorities, what are the key themes that we want to focus on to move the economy forward.
Your role as Director of Economic Development is very important in attracting new businesses here, attracting new residents, and we've heard a lot about projections of thousands of more people moving into Niagara. At the same time, your role also requires you to balance development with the social issues that we're having here in our community.
That's right, Mike, and it's very much. The region is growing. You've heard the estimates in terms of the population growth coming. A large part of it, probably the pandemic in certain ways, has even accelerated some of that growth from the GTA that's coming in. But a big part of the economic development function at the region is really attracting foreign investment to the region, promoting and marketing the region globally, really setting the stage and trying to ensure that we're getting that kind of investment happening in the region, where investment in manufacturing or investment in businesses coming to the region creates jobs for the community. And so, but as the community grows, other factors come into play, right? There are issues that we're starting to experience as communities grow,
Right.
affordable housing issues and infrastructure issues. Those are all part and parcel of as regions and communities grow. Those are some of the effects and some of the impacts that we'll have on the region as well.
November 12th is when that survey closes. Also coming up in November, the Economic Summit with some special guests. Can you talk a little bit about what is happening? Is that November 19th?
Yeah, I think it's November the 19th is the Economic Summit, and we're working with closely with the GNCC, the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. I'll be on a particular panel that's going to be talking about just this, around sort of Niagara's growth, Niagara's opportunities for the future, and so very much looking forward to that summit. It's always very well received in the community, well attended by many of the business participants in Niagara, and so very much looking forward to that. And I believe Chair Bradley also will be part of that summit as well. And it's important for the region to have these check-ins every year and on an annual basis to really sort of get some of that feedback and have some discussion with some experts across around the table around what are our thoughts and what does that economy look like for growth.
At something like this summit, does the 10-year plan come up? Do you explain what is going on with that 10-year plan and maybe some of the feedback that you've heard up to that point from business?
That's right. We're early stages on the feedback, so we just launched the media release last week in terms of stakeholder engagement. So I'm hoping that within 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, we'll have a better perspective of some of that feedback that's coming in, which I will be able to share. But also, yes, I'd like to be able to certainly talk about the economic development strategy, long-term strategy, and the importance of that moving forward, and the importance of really reaching out to the community for their comments and input. This is the time. It is a great, unique opportunity. The region is growing, and we want to ensure that we're ahead of the curve in terms of trying to advance the growth of the region. And we can't do that alone. We need the public input, and we're looking forward to it.
You and I have talked about the growth, and those numbers, those projected numbers, look at 20 years into the future. Mm-hmm. So are we expecting another 10-year plan at the end of this one that you will release next year?
Yes, I think after we, the plan for our 10-year economic development strategy would have a fully sort of hopefully adopted plan by Regional Council in the spring of 2022 that will really be the foundation of our 10-year strategy. And then as we move on beyond that 10 years, as time progresses, we will look towards how do we extend that 10-year strategy into the longer term, into 20 years and 30 years beyond.
George, thanks for joining us, and we urge our viewers who can to visit the website and make sure that they respond before November 12th. Thanks again.
Thanks very much, Mike. My pleasure.